auspices of Radio Biafra London. My name remains Mazi Jonathan Chinedu from Alo province of Biafra land. As I told you, as I said before, I am now joined by our barrister, Mazi Barrister Aloy Ejimakor. Please welcome to the program. Can you hear me?
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you.
Welcome to the program. It is a very big pleasure having you in this hallowed platform today, being the second day of August in the year of our Lord 2021, being Monday also. Please, Mazi, before we go on, I would like you to just take your time, introduce yourself, because millions of Biafrans are listening. Go on, please.
Okay, Jonathan, thank you for having me on this program. I really appreciate it. I feel highly honored. My name is Aloy Ejimakor. I'm a legal practitioner and special counsel to Mazi, Nnamdi, Kanu, and the indigenous people of Biafra.
Thank you very much. I will start by asking you this question, please. Did you ever see our leader since he has been under this extraordinary rendition, or have you heard from him directly, please? And if yes, when?
Yes, I have seen him a couple of times. I saw him last. That would be 16 days ago, on last 2 Saturdays. I was with him for almost 4 hours, and that was the day the interrogation or investigation, which they called the interview, ended. That was 2 Saturdays ago. So I have seen him with my 2 eyes, yes, a couple of times.
Let me ask you again, because though that you've given interview, BBC interview, which we had, but this is our own family radio. How did you see him? I mean, how was his health, his psychology? How was he when you saw him, mentally and physically?
Well, he's as mentally and physically fit as you can expect from somebody who underwent 8 days of tremendous torture, mental and physical torture. He still has visible injuries to his body, which I observed with my own eyes. Injuries to his neck, to his wrist, and his ankle. And of course, he complained of chest pains and bodily pains. He told me he was chained to the floor and beaten up and tortured. And
that was where? That was where? In Kenya or in Nigeria, please? That clarification is necessary.
Okay, that was in Kenya. For those 8 days before he was renditioned in Nigeria on the 8th day. When they returned him to Nigeria, the very first night, as he told me, that he spent in the custody of Department of State Services, was horrible. He was in mental anguish because in the room they kept him, he had a very brittle mattress to it, and the lights were very bright lights, and the lights were on throughout the night. So the very first night he spent at the DSS custody, he had extreme sleep deprivation. So with that, and with what he added to what he went through in Kenya, I can imagine his physical and mental state, and psychological, I would say psychological state, not mental, They are not as good as he should be. I think he's a traumatized person, as anybody would be. I consider him lucky to be alive because what he described to me that he passed through in Kenya is the sort of episode that ordinary men would not pass through without dying in the process. So he told me that it was to the glory of Chukwu Okike Abiyama that he survived the terrible physical and mental torture that he passed through during those 8 days that he was in captivity. So he is not as good physically and health-wise as he should be. That was why we felt that he needed to be moved to prison custody where better medical care could be available to him and where he will have more social contacts in order to be able to heal psychologically. Because where he is right now, he's isolated. He's in solitary confinement. He doesn't have any contact with anybody except when we as lawyers pay him a visit. If he has contact with any officer, it must be those that cater to his welfare. So there is no contact with anybody. So, but if he's in prison custody, social contact is guaranteed. So he's not in the best shape. So that is why we think independent medical examination is urgent and exigent. It should be done as quickly as possible. So we hope that either he gets transferred to prison custody or some of the processes we are filing and the pressures that are coming from around the world will percolate to the point that he regains his freedom. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, moving on. I want to ask you this because people will need clarifications. On the 26th, the day normally he is supposed to be brought to the court, Nigerian court, we saw lawyers being locked outside, and we saw you and other Mazi Ejiofor, also Barrister Ejiofor. People lawyers were angry. Please, can you really give us first-hand information of what really transpired in that place that day?
Okay, 3 factors were responsible for that. Initially, the court was closed. It was under lock with plainclothes DSS officers guarding the door to the courtroom. So they didn't permit lawyers to go in. But as soon as the lawyers from the government side came, lawyers from the office of the Attorney General, they were properly ushered into the courtroom through another door. So when the lawyers that gathered, and almost all the lawyers, not almost, all the lawyers except those on the government side, which number just about 4, came on the side of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. They are lawyers that volunteered to come and show support by being present in court, and they were properly robed and dressed to be inside the court. And they numbered over 100, maybe up to 150 of them. So when we discovered that the government lawyers had been ushered into the courtroom, but we were not, at least the frontline lawyers for Mazi, my humble self, for Mazi Ejiofor, and the others, 2 or 3 others, were not ushered in. That was when the fracas started.
So which means, if I will interject, which means you were initially restricted from entering the courtroom. Am I right?
Yes, we were asked to wait. We were asked to wait that they were making arrangements. They were arranging seats properly inside the court. Anyway, when we got past that, the next issue was how many lawyers will be allowed inside. That was the next issue. Are you with me?
Yes, I am.
There's a lot of background noise from your side, like something is moving around.
Okay. Are you hearing anything?
Yes, it's just the background noise. It's interrupting my thought processes.
No, I don't know. There is nothing I'm hearing here. Everywhere is quiet.
Okay, anyway, it might be disturbance in the line. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Anyway, let me continue. So, let me cut through the chase. They complained about not having sufficient seats and sufficient space in the courtroom to take all the lawyers, and they also complain about the COVID protocols that require people to space out when seated in enclosures. So eventually, the matter settled to a few of us lawyers being allowed inside. Of course, they had to allow us. So the issue was the additional number of lawyers the additional number of lawyers that presented themselves, including the lawyers from Igbo organizations and other civic organizations, and lawyer and for Ohanese for Igbo Lawyers Association in Abuja. So they allowed those two lawyers to enter, as well as Mazi Chukwemeka Ezife, who came to show solidarity. So the matter was settled eventually, but when we got into the courtroom, it was a little bit understandable that there were not, in fact, enough seats for everybody.
Okay. Okay, noted.
Yeah.
Let me ask again. What, on that day, why did the DSS, why didn't they bring our leader? Despite making the court date. And I hope, because I'm not a lawyer, but I hope under the law, are they obliged to bring a client in the court of law that day? Please, can you clarify this issue? And the reason why they didn't
this is $1 million question, as they say in America. The DSS did not give any reasonable excuse or plausible reason for not bringing Mazi Kanu to court that day, except to state it in general terms that they had logistic difficulties, which to me couldn't come with any reasonable meaning attached to it. But the point is that they didn't bring him, and that's a breach. It's a serious breach of his constitutional right. It's a violation of his right to be present at his trial. It's a disrespect to the court, and it complicates the defense that could be made for him by his defense counsels. It complicates his relationship with his counsel, because if he was in court, would have had a conference with him, counsel to the client, but he wasn't there. So the next conference we could have with him is to go to the detention facility, and to visit him at the detention facility has not been so easy. So his being in court that day was a golden opportunity for us as counsel to commune with him, to bend our heads and consult with one another and see how best to conduct his defense. That is his entitlement under Section 36 of Nigerian Constitution. His right to fair trial was grossly violated by DSS not presenting him to court, and the court, with all due respect, took an offense at that as well, and they entered on order compelling DSS to make sure they bring him to court on the next adjourned date. And I think that was what also compelled the court to enter a secondary order setting out 2 days of the week that the DSS must allow counsel and family members and friends and anybody who wish to see him to go and visit with him. provided the number is limited to 2 at a time, 2 days of the week, Mondays and Thursdays. So it was quite unfortunate, but it's something that is not supposed to happen. And it's something that really offends the ends of justice and fair play, that a suspect will not be brought to court. And this has become something of a new normal in Nigeria, where you may see from the news that DSS failed to bring suspects or accused persons to court until the court entered a direct order that such accused person be brought to court. It's not supposed to happen. It's very frustrating for everybody, and it defeats the end of justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, please. While continuing, please, there is this fear on every Biafran and lovers of freedom all around the world. Here you said it has been 16 days since you saw our leader, and you were prevented from seeing him also the last time. I mean, is it you or
Myself.
the council?
It was me, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Now, I want to ask you this, please. Do you have any proof of life of our leader? Is he alive? I'm not talking about being well, because he's not well, I know. Because any person in DSS dungeon is not well. So, do you have any proof of life since that time of our leader, your client, please?
No, we don't. That's just the simple truth. We don't.
That's very horrible.
No. I don't. But you see, I really don't want to dwell on that, because I don't have any reason to believe otherwise. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
You see, I don't want to heighten the anxiety of the people listening, or I also don't want to give them.
No, we need to say it as it is.
So that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying it as it is. I don't have any such proof, and I am not prepared to make assumptions to the contrary either. Do you understand?
Yes.
So,
yes.
Exactly. So that's my answer to that.
And what are you doing as the counsel, as the lawyer? What are you doing in order to obtain this proof of life?
Well, on Friday, a certain form called Form 48 was issued against the DSS by the Registry of the Federal High Court. What that form does is to inform the DSS that a certain form called Form 48 was issued against the DSS by the Registry of the Federal High Court. What that form does is to inform the DSS that a certain form called Form 48 was issued against the DSS by the Registry of the Federal High Court. What that form does is to inform the DSS that a certain form called Form 48 was issued against the DSS by the Registry of the Federal High Court. What that form does is to inform the DSS that a certain form called Form 48 was issued against the DSS by the Registry of the Federal High Court. What that form does is to inform the DSS that another officers who come and show cause why the court should not commit them to prison for disobeying its order. So what it is now is that it might get to a point where the DSS will be pitched against the court. That is, will be the DSS versus the court, not DSS versus Mazi or versus the lawyers anymore, because disobedience of court order is a very serious matter. But I have to be honest with you. In Nigeria, it's even very frustrating for the court as well. to compel these very powerful federal agencies and institutions to obey court orders. If you read newspapers emanating from Nigeria, you see a whole lot of such stories of serial disobedience of court orders. And I think in the first series, during the first phase of arrest and detention of Mazi in late 2015 to when he was released 18 months later, several court orders were disobeyed. So it's become a historical thing, and it's becoming a new normal. An abnormal thing is becoming normal here. So that's the frustration we face in this society. Thank you.
Okay, by going on what you said now about DSS, let me put it in my own way, being above the law, because if you cannot obey court order, you are above the law. And it is highly ironic that also it is the same courts that should decide, you know. And what you said, we have been seeing it often. And let me ask you this before I enter into my next question. In this case, when there is a blatant disobedience to court order by, doesn't matter who, DSS or any, what do you think is the solution? Or must it continue being like this? And you know, as lawyers, and what do you think is the solution to this? How should they be held accountable, and by who? Please.
Well, it's a societal problem. If you listen to my last response, it has come to that level. So to the level that some people may no longer consider it personal. It has become a scourge. It has become a societal problem. It has become very widespread. And like I said before, it's becoming the new normal. Except for the courts of the land, there is no other authority in Nigeria that can compel these institutions to obey court orders, because they are probably doing it with the support of the highest authorities in the land. So you can modify it by saying that if those highest authorities in the land instruct them, direct them in the strongest language possible to obey the court order, they would. So when they don't obey these court orders, there is a higher authority behind them that is egging them on. So there is no other way you can get past it except to continue to do processes in court and hope that a strong judge will get them to bend and obey the order. Otherwise, there is no other way. And well, you can say alternatively, there could be an appeal to the general public, to the conscience of the society, to the media, to free media, to international community, to add their voice to it. Perhaps that can lead to some kind of an attack of conscience and a change of heart on their part to obey these orders. Otherwise, you hit a brick wall, and that's just the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You are listening to Radio Biafra House Service coming to you through Radio Biafra London. I am here, Mazi Jonathan Chinedu, online with our lawyer, our attorney, Barrister Aloy Ejimakor. Today is the second day of August in the year of our Lord 2021. Barrister, let me go on. What are most of the difficulties you are encountering as an attorney representing our leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu? In this case, do you receive direct life threats? What are the difficulties to you and your family, please?
Well, I gotta tell you the truth. I don't receive any direct threats. Like I said before, I visited DSS several times with him without any let or hindrance. And to me, I don't feel unsafe I feel like I'm plying my trade, I'm practicing my profession. It's my duty to render the best, zealous, diligent representation to my client within the law, within the purview of the law. So I don't see danger where others see it. Perhaps I don't, because I feel I'm not doing anything wrong, practicing law and pushing for my client's rights. So I don't see any threat. But my friends and family are concerned. A lot of them have called me aside and said maybe this is one brief that you don't need to do. Maybe you should stop representing Mazi or whatever. I say, well, sorry to use this word. I say that's a very crazy thought. Why would I? Why not? Yeah, that's what we are trained to do. I'm ethically bound, not to reject a client because of fear to my own personal fear of my own personal safety. What am I doing wrong? Nothing. So why should I be afraid? He's my client. I'll stand by him through thick and thin. So I don't feel threatened by anybody. Nobody has called me on the phone threatening me. I know some people will go to my social media pages, maybe Facebook and Twitter, and say some unprintable things about me, but that is their right to hold their opinion. I am defending the right of Mazi to hold a political opinion. So why should I attack someone who expressed an opinion against my point of view? So I let it ride, I let it go. I don't feel something is a big issue. So because I am in the business of defending the right of a man to disagree with his government and stay alive and stay free, the right of a man to hold a political opinion, however inconvenient that political opinion is, that the government of the day should not seek to suppress it by means of punishment of some sort. That is my calling, and I intend to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What about general frustrations concerning doing your job properly in Nigeria, owing to the fact that Nigeria government doesn't even respect neither obey its own law? About your general frustrations.
Well, it is. That is why you have lawyers, and that's why you have the courts. So we hope that as lawyers, we can bring actions, applications, and suits to defend our clients, and we hope to prevail in court, and also we hope that the government will get to obey the order at the end of the day. It's not every order that they have disobeyed. Sometimes they do obey. So the fact that they disobey orders should not discourage any lawyer from plying his trade, from trying.
But they should obey all, that is government. According to a democratic setting, that is, the institutions, they're supposed to obey court rules, because that is the final point. Am I
yes.
not right?
Please. No, you are in order. You are in order. In a well-ordered society, that's what should happen. And but it's not happening. And that's probably part of what is fueling the dissent in the society. That some people have disagreed with the government to the point that they were declared to have committed offenses, because perhaps some of them are seeking a better society that should not be disobeying orders of court. So that therein lies the frustration that you are talking about. It's very frustrating, and it's also emblematic of what had happened to Mazi Kanu in Kenya. Is emblematic, because if our government is committed to the rule of law, to due process, the manner of rendition of Mazi Kanu from Kenya wouldn't have been extraordinary. It would have been done within the confines of the extradition processes in Kenya, and it wouldn't be raising any dust right now. So the fact
you are leading me to the next question.
Okay.
Can you explain more about extraordinary rendition as carried out by the Nigerian government against our leader Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Please explain it more to a layman's understanding. I know it will be difficult for you as a lawyer, but please try.
No, I can break it down. You see, when you have nations do have boundaries, and those boundaries really is one of the characteristics of sovereignty of nations. So if one nation feels that her citizen did something wrong, but that her citizen is in the other nation, there's a process of law that is required of all nations to have that citizen in the other country brought back to his country to answer to those offenses, to face trial and questioning and all that. That process is called extradition. Nigeria has it, Kenya has it. Nigerian own is called Extradition Act. Kenyan own is also called Extradition Act. And these laws apply mutatis mutandis, that is with all necessary changes to all Commonwealth nations. So what happened in Kenya did not happen within the process of that Extradition Act in Kenya. It happened outside of it. When such thing happens outside of the law, when it is extra-legal, when it did not go through due process of law, we call it extraordinary rendition. That is the rendering, the process of capturing or abducting or kidnapping a private citizen by act of state from one state to the other without due process of law is what is called extraordinary rendition, and is an international criminality. It's illegal under international law. It's also illegal under Nigerian law. There is what is called the Mutual Legal Assistance Ratification and Enforcement Act, Laws of Federation of Nigeria 2004. That very act spelled out in great detail from sections 1, 4, 5, and 6 the procedure that Nigeria has to follow to request or to have transferred to Nigeria a suspect who is wanted in Nigeria. That's Nigerian law. Nigeria did not follow the process of its own law. So when we talk about extraordinary rendition as a concept of customary international law, it's also a concept of municipal laws of Federation of Nigeria. So Nigeria broke her own laws in her quest to have Mazi Nnamdi Kanu transferred forcibly against his will from the territorial confines of Kenya to that of Nigeria. So that pretty much captures what this extraordinary rendition is all about. So you can break it down in simple parlance to mean when a state kidnaps, when a state becomes a kidnapper of somebody from one state to another state. That's what it is all about. Thank you.
Okay, and in going on that, there is Mazi Adindo Okpara from Qatar. He asked this question. He said,
okay,
do you have any idea of international laws and treaties over consequences for Nigeria government having committed extraordinary rendition over our consequences of this? Counsel or automatically vindicate Mazi Nnamdi Kanu on these ongoing charges by the Nigerian government, please?
Yes, there are legion. There are many of them. I'm pursuant to that. I have brought action before a continental tribunal known as the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. That commission has clear-cut jurisdiction to give remedies to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu over this extraordinary rendition. Article 12, Sub-Article 4 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, which Nigeria domesticated as part of its own law in 1983, provides that no individual shall be expelled or transferred from one country to the other without due process of law. Okay? And the Article 1 of that very law required the enforcement of all the articles of the Charter, including that Article 12, sub 4. So that's where we are. And then there are guidelines that have been promulgated, subsidiary legislation that have been promulgated under the Charter. They are called guidelines. And one of them, in Part 5 of the guidelines on the pursuit of terrorists across national boundaries, expressly prohibited extraordinary rendition. I can paraphrase it. It says, all transfers without due process of law are hereby prohibited. Extraordinary rendition is hereby prohibited. He said it in black letters. And Nigeria is a state party to these laws. And how can we hold Nigeria accountable is by pursuing this sort of action that I have filed before the African Commission to answer for it, because under Part 1F of the guidelines to the treaty, victims of extraordinary rendition are entitled to remedies. Those remedies are called reparations. And one of them, number one, is called restitution. In other words, restoration. It simply means to restore the person to the state of being before you rendition him. Mazi's state of being before he was rendition was that he was admitted as a free man in Kenya on his British passport. So it covers him. That is one remedy that can be extended to him. The other one is compensation, satisfaction, and guarantee of non-repetition. Well, those are remedies that I'm also theoretically pursuing. But the number one and most important remedy that I want everybody to key on is that very first one I mentioned. It's called restitution. Go and look it up in the dictionary. The words, synonymous words with restitution are as follows: restoration, or being put back to the situation that you were before whatever happened. So that is the one that I am keen on, and I'm insisting that the commission give me a decision that, of course, will be binding on Nigerian government to restore Mazi to the situation he was before he was renditioned to Nigeria. So yes, the answer is yes, 100%. There are remedies within the international legal order, and I've already triggered one of them. More will come as time passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barrister. Which also means that Kenya is complicit to the crime of extraordinary rendition. I hope I'm in order.
Yes, I sued Nigeria and Kenya. I sued Nigeria and Kenya as state parties. Let Kenya come before the commission and make its own case. I cannot absorb Kenya with the quantum evidence I have before me showing complicity of Kenya in this unfortunate incident and this illegal act. I cannot stay in chambers and absorb them. Let them come before the commission, admit or deny. If they successfully deny, then Nigeria will be left hanging as the only party that committed this, and that makes it far more serious, because in that case it then means that Nigeria violated the territorial integrity of Kenya, which in and of itself carries separate consequences as well. Thank you.
What about Britain that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was holding British passports during the time of that extraordinary rendition? Normally, under legal status or legal process, is Britain only entitled to giving consular assistance, or is there any other thing more they could do under normal circumstances?
Well, Britain can certainly do more. That, that is the expectation of the general public, and that expectation is reasonable. If you cast your mind to 1984, when Nigerian government attempted to rendition Omar Odiko in a crate, they put him in a box, in a big box called crate, and drugged him and injected him with a lot of things and put him to sleep. That was the first act of rendition that Nigeria attempted. The only difference between 1984 rendition of Omar Odiko and that of Mazi Kanu is that of Omar Odiko didn't succeed, but that of Kanu succeeded. But even though it didn't succeed, it brought so many countervailing consequences against Nigeria. Number one, Britain broke diplomatic relations with Nigeria for 2 years. Two, the Nigerian High Commissioner to Britain was expelled, and some other diplomats were also expelled in tow. Three, the CEO of Nigerian Airways was almost arrested in UK on arrival, but he had a lucky escape. 4, 17 people who were complicit directly or remotely were arrested. 4 of them were convicted and sentenced, and they served sentences between prison terms between 6 to 8 years. And all of them were subsequently deported, ultimately deported. And 5, all subsequent extradition requests by Nigeria to Britain were summarily denied, with British judges citing to that attempted extraordinary rendition of Omar Odiko. And guess what? Britain took all these actions on behalf to protect Omar Odiko, a mere resident of Britain. Omar Odiko never held a British passport like Mazi Kanu does. So, expectedly and quite reasonably so, Mazi Kanu, as a British citizen, deserves more reaction, more outrage from his government, from his adopted nation, from Britain. He deserves that. And we expect that will happen in time. But whether any of that has happened, it hasn't. Whether Britain has made some supplications or, taking some actions to activate diplomatic protection for Kanu, I know for sure that they have, because I have been dealing with the British High Commission here in Abuja. I know for sure that they have taken some steps, but none of those steps has come to maturation to produce the result that will be satisfactory to me and to people out there. So I think that more needs to be done by Britain, and it needs to be done urgently, because he was in Kenya as a British citizen, not as a Nigerian citizen. That is very, very, very important factor. He never entered Kenya with Nigerian passport. He entered Kenya with British passport. So that passport should carry a cloak of protection that should inure to his benefit. So I like to see that benefit in the coming weeks, not months. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me ask you directly, please. Do you know about the situation of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's British passport? Who is in possession of it? Is it Kenya? And why? Because we had when he was kidnapped, and when he was brought down to Abuja, I think the Justice Minister, he mentioned that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was caught with Nigerian passport issued on 2013. Please, can you make clarifications on these details? Do you know the exact position? Who is in charge of the British passport and the lies they talk about?
Okay. Okay. The Attorney General didn't actually say he was caught. He was just using that to describe him and give the impression that he was in possession of the passport when he was rendition. No, That was Mazi Kanu's old passport, issued sometime in 2013, which he denounced so many times on Radio Biafra publicly. He wasn't using that passport anymore. He's my client. So I know that he wasn't using that passport anymore. I know that for sure. But when he was abducted, he was not in possession of his British passport either. And that passport was in Kenya for a long time, as was reported by The Guardian, UK. So neither the Kenyan government nor the Nigerian government has possession of his British passport. Thank you.
Okay, which means, according to your explanation, this extraordinary rendition nullifies any type of trial against our leader, right?
Well, that's...
For sure. One day we must be free. Elohim, yeah, we told us to go. Biafra is guarantee. Yeah, people around the world pray for peace to reign. Father, more than everywhere. Pray for peace to reign. I got to sing. Make a human. I got to sing. Make a human. People are dying every day. God shouldn't have crying every day.
Exo Synergy.
Let me tell you what you need to know. You must be free. Freedom. Are you going to marry? Are you going to marry? Biafra freedom. Hey, are you going to marry?
I love this green, better green. Tell the kiss to the enemies. They call me evil and Hebrew. Say the same, we will never give up. We made a creed that we wanna go. Tell the world that I got is great.
Hey, are you going to marry? Hey, are you going to marry?
economy. Still a well odd. No road, no lie, water no the flow. And if you talk police, them go come carry go. Giving people fake promise for their campaign. After the election, the next section are siren. Sufferness now a block fest. People dying. Very good propaganda and lying. Some face of 80s with a C for ya. Work like Jackie, salary probably next year. Everybody want to be like Mandela, the king of hero, while the heart is full of evil. Like King Pharaoh. Mpanso but that not man as a border. One and two Ogadika will another summer. Clearing and raking labor. Ogadika Ghana. Political manipulation, nobody say something. We can take this for granted, we could do something. I talk a letter, no, but I will look at that, we are something.
Make a taxi in Nigeria, we poor. Like a chukuman na tozo. Make a taxi in Nigeria, we poor. Like a chukuman na tozo. If an emelo guru na banya nyamidi, nyamelo man na tozo. Oh no 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 no, oh the lumo, nyamelo man na tozo. You just like you, and you go, man a man na tozo. If he develops you, commit suicide, man a man na tozo.
Leader, a ruler, no better, and you end Chiche, Pachi, Macheson, or Tutumo, when you forget Tachia, economy high, for BP, or Tutuna Puare with CV, or Tutun Daikan, or Zanjiji, let all these on a Yanomo MP, our country, Toredic America, Manimora love, Candy America, Yamenji, Guanu, Jehovah, Nantawana, Dizu, Makachim, Man, Natata,
Mekatasi in Nigeria, we poor, Makachukuman na tozo. Mekatasi in Nigeria, we poor, Makachukuman na tozo. Ifene melu gudu na banya nyamidi, nyamelo man na tozo. Oh no 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 no, oh the lumu, nyamelo man na tozo. You place like you, and you go, man a man na tozo. If he develops you, commit suicide, man a man na tozo. No matter go chapu kwa bed, new occupation. I must tell you it's from the foundation. Man, I put to the blame on our generation. Aburu Eve, Mado go chapu kwa put Aburu a thief. Any nation they down for jubilation. Let me see you raise your hands and shout congratulations. I will peace, master this up, bad information. Fuel Rigo, gas Rigo, oil Rigo, Kedepage Pido, and you will go, Unua Nugo, Nawaga, Yemehari Malona, oh Fugo, Obodo Palapo, and you want to last up by 30 years. Emana guys, Cholo, Igo Moto, Lono, no Napia, Piana, Baba, Uto, Mekatasi in Nigeria, we poor, like a chukuman na tozo. Mekatasi in Nigeria, we poor, like a chukuman na tozo. If an emelo gudu, na banya nyamidi, yamelo man na tozo. Oh no 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 no, oh the lumo, yamelo man na tozo. You place like you, and you go, man a man na tozo. If he develops you, commit suicide, man a man na tozo. Man na tozo. Man na tozo.
So iche kwa na zadoro na riba na jabi. Vekle kama atawa vex.
Why you hating a brother? Cause of color scheme. My religion believe in fade. People can talk to law and slave mentality. Human rights activists, long walk to freedom. Just like Mandela, hatred and appetite, the struggle against racism, justice and equity. Don't forget your history. Restore Martin Luther King, who foretold the American dream. Africa unite and wake up. We need one love and one voice. Xenophobia, fuck that. Our enemies, our leaders. These tyrants ain't giving up. Join the politics or shut the fuck. We need to unite and kick them out. Long live Bobby Wine, show where they are to go. Sean Kuti, Pelu Faz, Gani Adams, freedom fighters, Nnamdi Kanu, Pelu Biafra. Which way? Africa. You don't like Bobby Wine, Afakulu. You don't like shower rare, Afakulu. Bugwata Sunday, Igbo, Afakulu. You don't like Nnamdi Kanu, Afakulu. 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 You be Mungu. Afakulu. 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 You be Mungu. Hola MTV Africa, Sound City and Trade Steve, your propaganda and politics, making money from Africa, recycling individuals, there's no peace in Uganda, no human rights, no justice, boycott the mama, take mama to Ghana, South Africa, Tanzania, Ethiopia and Senegal, shout out to OHIP TV, Nigeria, Kenneth Music, the foundation, they made it happen, multi-choice, word up, big brother, pay my money, you don't like Bobby Wine, Afakulu. You don't like shower rare, Afakulu. Bugwata Sunday, Igbo, Afakulu. You don't like Nnamdi Kanu, Afakulu. 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 You be Mungu. Afakulu. 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 You be Mungu.
I don't come again. Come on, original Biafra Barrister. Come on, this is our period of time, and we are going to call it our birthright. And now I can't stop us. The Friday comes, anywhere we go, that's all the blessings of the Lord they follow us. Anywhere we gonna saw the blessings of the Lord they follow us. Who gonna go man? We never hear go here. Say that problem come. We are the best. We are the best now. We are the body one. We are come to freedom time. Every day keep on praying to God. It's our freedom time. Now so we keep on moving forward. Oh yeah, I feel your peace, your man. I feel your peace, your man. Different people, your man. Different people, your man. It's never that make it dance. It's never that make it dance. It's never that make it step on it down. It's a freedom time. Live for the promised land. 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 Yeah. When I look up to the sky, I can see the sun is shining. It's shining all over Biafra. We are the best. I give thanks to God for the blessings of my soul. Let's go to our freedom time. Freedom time. Keep on praying to God. Praying to God. It's our freedom time. It's our freedom. So we keep on moving forward. Keep on. That's the only okay, are you ready? This is the remix.
Yo,
Is the brain so?
Mr. Pro, we're doing it.
Is it on the beat?
Every day keep on praying to God for protection. Yeah. The things that is happening around us. Yeah. Our brothers, we miss you all. Our sisters, we miss you all. Our mothers, our fathers, our children, we miss you all. Chukuki kabya mweno kwa yenaka. Japania. Chukuki kabya mweno kwa yenaka. Japania. Rest in peace to our father and mother. Yeah. Rest in peace to our brothers and sisters. No. Rest in peace to our children. To be together. The death of our people can never be in vain. Every day and night we feel in the pain. It's unfortunate that we cannot see you again, but we promise you that the pressure gone is Rest in peace, our father and mother. Yeah. Rest in peace to our brothers and sisters. No. Rest in peace to our children. To be together. Change my eyes. Yeah. I want the heroes, we miss you all. Over 3.5 million dead, and they said that's not enough. The vampires are still sucking our blood. Father, give them guts and water.
Also service coming to you through Radio Biafra London. My name remains Mazi Jonathan Chinedu, and today is the second day of August in the year of our Lord 2021. We are here direct with our barrister Mazi Aloy Ejimakor, who has been giving us some press interview or media chat concerning the issues at hand, before we were rudely interrupted by technical issues. But we must continue. Mazi, Barrister Ejimakor, welcome back to the program. Please, I asked you about the non-trial or the non-viability of any trial because of the extraordinary rendition, and you were explaining before we were rudely interrupted. Please, can you move on so that we move to other questions? Can you just say something about, continue what you were saying, please?
Yes. Before I do that, I have a quick information for our listeners. When we went on break, I checked and I received a text message from one of my colleagues, Barrister Maxwell Opera, that himself and Barrister Chinwe Umeche, one of our colleagues as well, they succeeded in seeing Mazi today. So that proof of life.
Oh, that's it. That's it.
Positive.
I have to shout.
Yes.
This is not something. This is not something we need to browse. Please. It is now
so
confirmed that some of our barristers has met with our leader, Mazi Nnamdi Okuchukwu Kanu, direct. So
today
it's a proof of life. Today being the second day of August 2021. Mazi, please continue. Mazi.
Yes. Exactly. So now this rendition thing, being extraordinary as it is a challenge to the authority, to jurisdiction, as lawyers will say, of that very entity to put the person to trial, based on those remedies that I had mentioned before, as interpreted. That should be a challenge to the jurisdiction of the court to continue the trial. I don't think that it's going to be easy. I don't have any such expectations that it will be without a fight. But I'm going with what the law says, and that law, Nigeria is subject to it. So we shall see how it plays out. So that is why at the beginning I was saying that there was going to be trial within trial. A lot of people didn't understand what I was saying. So that trial within trial is what is playing out right now. What I demand is simple, that before Mazi is put to trial, the court must make inquiry into how he suddenly appeared before the court after almost 4 years. So such inquiry should be proper before we go to the trial proper. That is what I'm talking about. And my position or my proposition is backed by pertinent laws. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm really gladdened, and I'm receiving messages of hooray for this proof of life, because I'm telling you
Yes.
that many of us we are going down, 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 honestly. But this news is something that calls for jubilation, because as we have been demanding, our lawyers, some of our lawyers has met today with our leader direct. So
Yes.
our leader is
Yes.
alive. That is the news.
Yes.
You know, my phone is going
Yes.
crazy, honestly. So
Yes.
let me also ask this question. It is from one Mazi Chidera from South Africa. He said, how is our leader feeding, and who is giving him food? Whether he has seen any doctor since our leader arrived in Abuja. Please, can you respond to that?
Yes. 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 The detention facility has its own doctors. So they made those doctors available to him at his request. They will also make the doctors available to him anytime he requests. As far as his feeding is concerned, it's the detention facility that is feeding him. The last time I was there, I was introduced to his welfare officer. That's what they called the officer. He told me he was the one in charge of his meals and water and anything that he eats, and that he has been instructed to be very careful, because I made a request that we take over his feeding, and he told me that that it's not that he doesn't believe that is going to be possible, because the powers that be put Mazi's life in his hands. So it's not going to be acceptable for him to accept any food for him from outside. You know, so Mazi himself, you know, in my observation, didn't feel too concerned about that aspect. I remember during one of the interview sessions, you know, they all shared water. All of us drank the water. I drank, he drank. So that's just. I know that people are concerned, but I'm just telling you what my observations are. That's all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Even this news is now on the walls of on the wall. You know, some people are having fear that the detention feeding on our leader is highly dangerous. I don't know whether you have anything to say about it.
Well, you know, normally I see all over the world is a concern people often express. Even back in America, where I had practiced law for a while, families, friends, loved ones of detainees, people in detention, they often pivot into that idea that detention facility meal is not safe for one reason or the other. So they try to make that request to bring food for the detainee from outside. But oftentimes it is rejected. So like everything else in life is a calculated risk, but that's just the way it is. It's a regulation. So it's a controlled environment and they have their rules. So we just have to take things the way they are when we cannot force a change. But I was hoping that maybe he's entitled to better meals, or he is entitled to be fed from sources that people would not have any concern. So when I approached the British High Commission in the early days of this rendition, I think that was around the 6th or the 7th of last month, I told them at the embassy, we had a meeting, that if at all they are going to intervene, perhaps they should key into his welfare as the first point of contact.
Okay.
Hello? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
That's the much I have to say on that. That's the much I have to say on that. But in himself, I have to be honest. I have to be truthful about it. People are listening. He didn't express that fear that I see people expressing out there. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So when the person concerned exhibited confidence, then that's where my confidence is also coming from. So perhaps if you met him personally, you will also pick the same confidence, because he did not express fear of anything, any food that they give to him or water they gave.
Fearless lion.
Yes. So he didn't have that fear, and I was impressed. So to that extent, so I was wondering whether my request to take over, or for his relatives to be bringing food for him from outside, whether in his own reckoning, whether our request was reasonable at all, because he wasn't fazed, he wasn't disturbed about that at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Now,